You're probably expecting a tale of remorse of a girl who made mistakes and paid the price. Well, let me set the record straight. I regret nothing. My college life was a tapestry of excitement, ambition, and yes, a bit of scandalous intrigue. But isn't that what your 20s are for? It all began when I started dating Alex during our sophomore year. He was the quintessential college boyfriend, handsome, attentive, and sufficiently popular to make dating him a social asset. We met in a philosophy class, debating the ethics of utilitarianism. His arguments were mediocre at best, but he had this endearing way of furrowing his brow when he was trying to seem deep. It was charming in a naive sort of way. Our relationship was smooth sailing for the first few months. Dinners at trendy restaurants, study dates in the library, and the occasional weekend getaway to his family's lake house. Life was good, but if I'm being honest, a bit predictable. I craved something more exhilarating, something that made my heart race and my palms sweat. Enter Liam, Alex's older brother. He was the black sheep of the family, a musician with a rebellious streak and a smile that could melt glaciers. We first crossed paths at a family gathering. Alex had invited me to meet his parents, and I was on my best behavior, charming the socks off his mom and engaging his dad in discussions about market trends. Liam sauntered in late, leather jacket draped over his shoulder and a guitar case in hand. He looked at me with a glint of mischief in his eyes. "So, you're the girl who's tamed my little brother," he said, a sly grin spreading across his face. I laughed it off, but there was an immediate spark. Throughout the evening, we exchanged witty banter, each comment layered with double meanings. When Alex stepped away to take a call, Liam leaned in. "Careful now," he whispered. "You might find this family more interesting than you bargained for." A week later, I received a text from an unknown number. "Fancy a real adventure? Meet me at the electric room tonight." I knew it was Liam, and I knew it was a bad idea. But curiosity got the better of me. I told Alex I was attending a girls' night out and made my way to the underground club. The night was a blur of neon lights, pounding music, and intoxicating conversation. Liam was everything Alex wasn't: spontaneous, daring, and irresistibly charismatic. One moment we were laughing over cocktails, the next we were dancing so close it felt like the rest of the world had faded away. When he pulled me in for a kiss, I didn't resist. It was thrilling, forbidden, and exactly the kind of chaos I craved. Our affair escalated quickly. Secret rendezvous, hidden messages, and a constant adrenaline rush. Liam awakened a part of me that I didn't know existed. He challenged me, pushed my boundaries, and made me feel alive. Just when I thought I had my double life under control, Ethan entered the picture. Ethan was the youngest brother, a genius with a penchant for poetry and a soul that seemed older than his years. We met at the campus coffee shop. I was struggling with a particularly dense piece of literature, and he noticed my frustration. "Kafka can be a tough nut to crack," he said, sliding into the seat across from me without invitation. I looked up, ready to dismiss whoever had interrupted my solitary misery, but his eyes held a depth that caught me off guard. "And you have the secret decoder ring?" I quipped. He smirked. Perhaps. Or maybe I just enjoy discussing existential dilemmas with intriguing strangers. What started as a casual conversation turned into hours of intellectual sparring. Ethan was different from both Alex and Liam. He was introspective, sensitive, and had an uncanny ability to see through facades. Our meetings became regular study sessions that delved into philosophy, art, and the meaning of life. With him, I felt understood on a level that was profoundly intimate. One evening, as we walked along the riverbank discussing Camus, he stopped abruptly. "You know," he said softly, "I feel like I've known you forever." There was a vulnerability in his eyes that made my heart ache. Without thinking, I reached out and touched his cheek. "Maybe in another life," I whispered. He leaned in, and our lips met. It was tender, almost innocent, but charged with an intensity that left me breathless. Now I was entangled with all three brothers, each fulfilling a different facet of my desires. Alex was stability, Liam was passion, and Ethan was depth. It was a delicate balancing act, but I relished the complexity. Life was exhilarating, and I felt invincible. Of course, juggling 3 relationships is no easy feat. There were close calls, a misplaced text, a nearly intercepted note, but I managed to keep the charade going for several months. I became adept at compartmentalizing, slipping into different roles as needed. It was like starring in my own elaborate play, and I was determined not to let the curtains fall. One afternoon, while lounging in Alex's dorm room, he mentioned that his parents wanted us all to come home for a weekend visit. "It'll be fun," he said, oblivious to the knot forming in my stomach. "Just the family and you." "Sounds great," I lied, forcing a smile. The weekend arrived, and I found myself back at the family estate, navigating the minefield I had created. During dinner, the tension was palpable. Liam shot me knowing glances from across the table, while Ethan seemed unusually quiet. Alex, ever the oblivious one, prattled on about his upcoming internship. After dinner, Mrs. Thompson insisted on showing me the garden. As we strolled among the rose bushes, she turned to me with a hint of concern. "You seem distracted, dear. Is everything all right?" "Of course," I replied, masking my anxiety. "Just a bit overwhelmed with school." She smiled gently. "You're a bright girl. Just remember, honesty is the best policy." Her words lingered ominously, but I brushed them off. Later that night, I received a text from Liam. "Meet me in the library." I slipped away, careful not to draw attention. The library was dimly lit, the scent of old books filling the air. Liam was waiting by the fireplace, a serious expression replacing his usual cocky grin. "What's going on?" I asked, uneasy. Before he could answer, Ethan stepped out from behind a bookshelf. "We need to talk," he said. Panic surged through me. "Is this some kind of intervention?" I joked weakly. Liam crossed his arms. "Cut the act. We know." My mouth went dry. "Know what?" "That you've been playing all of us," Ethan said, his eyes reflecting hurt and betrayal. I tried to summon a defense, but words failed me. "I can explain." Alex appeared then, closing the library door behind him. "Please do," he said coldly. I looked between them, my carefully constructed world collapsing. "Alex, He held up a hand. "Save it. We found out everything. The secret meetings, the lies, all of it." "How?" I managed to ask. Ethan sighed. "You weren't as discreet as you thought. Plus, people talk." Liam stepped closer. "Did you think you could just toy with us? That we wouldn't find out?" I squared my shoulders, anger flaring. "And what if I did? You all enjoyed it as much as I did." Alex's eyes hardened. "This isn't a game. Isn't it?" I shot back. "You all wanted something from me, and I delivered. Maybe you should be thanking me for spicing up your mundane lives." Ethan shook his head. "You've hurt people. You've hurt me." There was a moment of silence, the weight of his words settling in the air. Liam smirked, but there was no humor in it. "Well, you'll be pleased to know that the game's about to get more interesting." I narrowed my eyes. "What are you talking about?" Alex pulled out his phone and played a video. It was footage of me kissing Liam outside the electric room, followed by clips of me with Ethan at the coffee shop, and finally, moments with Alex himself. The timestamps were damning. "We've compiled quite the highlight reel," Alex said. My heart pounded. "What are you planning to do with that?" Ethan looked away. "We haven't decided yet." Liam leaned in. "Maybe we'll show it to your parents. Or perhaps share it with the university. I'm sure they'll be interested in your extracurricular activities." I felt a surge of fear. "You wouldn't dare." "Try us," Alex replied. I clenched my fists. "Fine. Do what you want. I'm not going to grovel for forgiveness." Alex raised an eyebrow. "We didn't expect you to. In fact, we counted on your arrogance." With that, they turned and left me standing alone in the dimly lit library. The following weeks were a nightmare. Rumors spread like wildfire across campus. Anonymous posts appeared on social media, hinting at my exploits without naming me directly. My friends grew distant, and professors started giving me disapproving looks. One morning, I received an email from the dean's office requesting a meeting. When I arrived, I was met by a panel of administrators. "Miss Reynolds," the dean began, "serious allegations have been brought to our attention regarding your conduct." I maintained a facade of innocence. "I'm not sure I understand." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were printouts of emails, text messages, and photos evidence meticulously compiled. These documents suggest a pattern of manipulation and deceit involving multiple students, potentially violating the university's code of conduct. I looked up, feigning confusion. "These are private matters." Be that as it may, another administrator interjected, "They've become a public concern. We're here to discuss the implications for your standing at this institution." I realized then that the brothers had orchestrated not just a personal vendetta, but a calculated plan to dismantle my reputation. They had leveraged their connections and resources to ensure that I faced consequences far beyond social ostracization. Over the next few days, I consulted with advisors and attempted to mitigate the damage. Legal action was considered but deemed impractical. The university offered me a choice: withdraw voluntarily or face formal expulsion. Opting for the lesser of two evils, I chose to leave. On my last day, I wandered the campus that had once felt like a second home. Memories flooded back: late-night study sessions, laughter with friends, the thrill of new experiences. All tainted now by the shadow of scandal. I ran into Sarah, a former friend, outside the student center. She gave me a sympathetic look. "I heard what happened. I'm sorry." I shrugged. "Don't be. I made my choices." She hesitated. "Why did you do it?" I considered lying but decided there was no point. Because I could. Because it was exciting. And maybe because I was bored. She shook her head. "That's not a good enough reason." "Maybe not for you," I replied. But it was for me. As I walked away, I felt a strange mix of defiance and emptiness. I had lived on my own terms, consequences be damned. But now, facing the fallout, I wondered if it had been worth it. Back in my apartment, packing up the remnants of my college life, I received a final text from an unknown number: "Game over. Safe travels." I smirked, tossing the phone aside. They thought they had won, that their orchestrated revenge had broken me, but they underestimated my resilience. Sure, my plans had been derailed, and I would have to start anew. But if life had taught me anything, it was that setbacks are temporary. People reinvent themselves all the time. I wasn't about to let a trio of scorned brothers dictate my future. I secured a job in a neighboring city, leveraging connections they didn't know I had. Within weeks, I was settling into a new routine, plotting my next moves. One evening, while sipping wine on the balcony of my new apartment, I received an email notification. It was from Ethan. "I don't expect a reply," it read, "but I wanted to say that I regret how things ended. Despite everything, I hope you find what you're looking for." I considered responding but decided against it. Let him stew in his remorse. Months passed and life moved on. I heard through the grapevine that Alex had graduated and taken a corporate job, Liam was touring with his band, and Ethan had dropped out to find himself. I wondered if they ever thought about me, if their victory tasted as sweet as they had hoped. As for me, I thrived. Free from the confines of the university and the small-minded judgments of others, I embraced new opportunities. I met people who appreciated my audacity, who weren't threatened by a woman unafraid to seize what she wanted. Some might say I got what I deserved, that karma had caught up with me. But I prefer to think of it as a necessary evolution. Every phoenix needs to burn before it can rise from the ashes. So, there you have it. No tragic downfall, no plea for redemption. Just a woman who played with fire and danced in the flames. Life is too short for regrets, and I intend to live every moment unapologetically. If that makes me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. I'd rather be the villain than a supporting character in my own life.